Dogs Red Wine. Senior Jason. My name's John Guinevere, and it's been an interesting week for me. How about you?
Well, you had a birthday.
Yeah, I did.
So,
I
happy
don't
birthday.
thanks. I've never really been that big into my own birthday.
So,
I usually don't remember it's my birthday until someone calls and goes, "Happy
happy
birthday!"
birthday.
And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's my birthday."
Welcome to Dogs Red Wine Studio here in Perrysburg, Ohio. And
Where it's been raining like the
oh
Dickens.
man, it's been raining. I tell you,
Everybody's lawn is green, including mine.
right, and
And
the grass is foot
I've
tall.
got the worst lawn probably in Perrysburg. If they nominated the guy with the worst lawn, it would be.
So, what do we have on it? How about those Epstein files?
Yeah, well, I just read about this right before I came over, so I don't have a lot of details, but according to someone in Congress, the files have been destroyed.
How isn't that convenient, right? I mean,
Well, something like that was bound to be the case. I guess in a way, I mean, if they really are destroyed, I guess that's good because then the people who are being blackmailed can't be blackmailed anymore.
I guess, yeah.
That's probably the worst part about what's been going on.
Right,
You know, I
right.
mean, that's why, from what I understand, is Epstein was sort of like connected to the CIA and maybe the Mossad, and they used all these recordings to blackmail
Oh,
powerful people.
yeah, they have a really good documentary on Epstein and the Epstein files, and he had little pinhole cameras all over his house,
Hmm.
and he'd have these lavish parties with important people, and then he'd have these young prostitutes hanging out at the party, and so he would you know create
Put people
situations
sort of
where that would.
like D Combs, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, because I mean, all you have to do is have a married politician with somebody, even if they're not engaging that much or just being polite. You can make a camera angle
and
look.
give them a Mickey.
Yeah, exactly right.
Next
Oh
thing you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
they're in S&M outfits with a 15-year-old.
But yeah,
Well, you know
his.
that one gal who was like the one of the big figures, one of the big victims. She committed suicide last week
Oh, last
in
week.
Australia. Yeah,
Oh, that's
right. Like 2 weeks after she got in an almost fatal car accident.
wow.
I
That's so
mean,
scary. I mean, it goes back to Princess Diana. That was supposed to be an inside job,
right.
30 years ago. And, when you know the level of corruption when it affects the people at the top, there really isn't a price or
Well,
a
yeah. I mean, they have
safe place to
so
be.
much money
Yeah.
and so much power. If they're willing to say pony up $5 million, I'll bet you. I'm not going to actually bet you, but if you had $5 million to spend on a hit job,
Hmm.
you could probably get most people in the world hit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Maybe not presidents
yeah.
but the average Joe or
Oh,
the
I'm sure.
CEO.
I'm sure.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of incentive.
Yeah, yeah, and it gets easier as you go out of this country, where 5 million to somebody that's been fighting mercenary warfare their whole life
Yeah.
is
Wait,
a year's, or I mean, a lifetime's worth of salary.
and I don't think it's possible that the FBI had all the files,
Well,
all the tapes,
yeah,
because all these girls went through depositions as well.
yeah, but they don't have to say everything, but they have the raw data from Epstein's safe.
Who does?
The FBI had it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean they when they raided his townhouse or his penthouse, it was like a brownstone. It was like a 2-story.
Oh, in New York?
Yeah, in New
Yeah.
York. Yeah. Um, when they raided that, they got to the safe and they got everything out of the safe with that warrant before he was able to even, get there, protect himself, destroy it. But that was confirmed that they got significant evidence out of that safe with that would incriminate probably the reason why it went away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fallout's going to be. I hope there's a fallout. I mean, no one's paid a price except for him.
Yeah, yeah,
And his girlfriend, right, Gazelle or whatever.
yeah.
She's in prison for
Right. Well, the
sex
judge.
trafficking.
Yeah,
To who?
yeah.
Who are the
Well,
who are the clients?
right, exactly.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
if you can't say who the clients are, how can there be victims?
Well, there's I know.
I'm saying
right,
there's both.
Right,
There's
right,
just
right,
it's
exactly.
absurd.
Right.
I mean, she can rot in hell for all I care.
Yeah. Right.
I have no sympathy for her.
She was pretty evil for a lot of vulnerable young women, and they were young too. I mean, they were like junior high age. It was pretty sick. But anyway, next subject. I heard rumors of a Tesla Model 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's supposed to be sub 30,000, maybe closer to 20,000 with the tax subsidies.
I think that whole Doge, Tesla, Bernie. I think it's run its course, and mostly because it wasn't real. It was manufactured and paid protesters.
Right.
So if it's not real, the minute you start throwing money at it, it dies.
Exactly.
And I think they got pretty good at finding out who was putting the money in. The people were like, oh.
You'll see it. Like if you go to protests, the paid protesters, they go on their lunch break. They don't.
When the second it's 2:00, they all walk away.
Right. Yeah. They're like, that was my gig. I mean,
well, these guys go up and interview them, and they don't even know what they're protesting. Actually, I mean, the fact that you would protest Elon Musk,
so what's
for finding fraud?
Well, I think, and I mean, I'm all about everybody getting a voice. That's great. Everybody should get a voice. That's why we have the Constitution written the way it is. But I don't completely understand the hands-off movement. I shouldn't say that. I kind of understand the hands-off movement.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have hands-off for what?
Well, and that's what I was reading, some of the people's protest signs. It was like, hands off, and it would list two countries. It's like, well, so are you for or against that? Because hands off transparency, hands off. One of them said hands off whistleblowing. I'm like, I think
we want
whistleblowing, right? I mean, so it's like it's
you want it if
it's needed.
It's on your side,
right? I mean, but that's a pretty big nationwide movement that they keep hitting and stuff. But
I has it really caught on? Or?
Not really. I think it's like one of those things that
I have a few Facebook friends, actually people I know, and they're sharing the dates of some of these protests, and I want to ask them. So hands off of what exactly do you want? Yeah. So I know what you're protesting. Could you share? And maybe I should be. They're probably going to think, God, that's just John being a smartass. So that's why I probably haven't asked it. But I'm curious, like hands, because to me it's sort of like something you would say against pedophilia.
Well, yeah, I'd say hands off pedophilia. That's
right?
a good one. I get behind that. I support that.
Yeah. And that's what we should show up with these. No more pedophilia. Right. Get your hands off the little kids, right? Let's show up some of the protesters.
Right. So, but I think it was one of those things where they, like you said, they paid organizers and they paid.
Another thing we could do is go, well, yeah, the source groups paid us like $150 an hour. What are you getting?
But I think it's one of those things that it was a paid protest in the beginning, and there's subsequent ones that were from their volunteers. It hasn't really got a lot of traction. I think people are the stock market's up and down. I mean, it's volatile. But yeah, that's big picture. It's not doing bad.
Well, the amount of capital that has to be shifting.
Yeah.
For one, we don't have all this money flowing to China.
Right.
It's
Right.
staying in the U.S. because Americans are just not buying things from China. So you have that cash staying here, and now you've got a bunch of companies from around the world. Like, well, one way to get around a tariff is I'll build my factory in the United States, and I just published this story. I shared it, I should say, that all these factory orders in the United States have shot up because the only place you can get something now is from an American company because the tariffs are so high in China.
Yeah.
People are sourcing locally.
Are you? Do you think we're seeing that yet in the economy?
They're already seeing it.
Are they?
Yeah.
So
Which
I know
is pretty
what.
amazing that
Yeah.
it happened that fast.
Yeah. Have you tried to import any of your moissanite?
No, it's funny. I sort of saw the writing on the wall, and I had so many inquiries for Valentine's. I thought I was sold so much jewelry because I was like answering all those Facebook questions.
Yeah.
It was a crappy month.
Huh.
So I'm like, well, if Valentine's is a crappy month, maybe I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
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 I did it for a year. It was up and down profit wise. It's an interesting market. I think the whole diamond market, if you look at charts, it's crashing.
Well,
and it's only going to keep crashing.
Let's talk about De Beers.
Well, De Beers is, I think, over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do is every time there was a new diamond mine, they would show up and go, look, if you guys don't sell your diamonds to us,
yeah,
you're going to dump them on the market and you're not going to make any money.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you give all your diamonds to us, we'll make sure that you get a certain amount per carat.
Right.
And that worked really well for De Beers. They were, not only did they corner the market, total monopoly, but they also advertised like you spend 3 months salary.
Oh yeah,
on an engagement ring.
Right.
Diamonds are forever.
Right.
Girl's best friend. That was all De Beers marketing.
Right.
Well, then the synthetic diamonds showed up. Now,
well, they're not really synthetic though. They're actually real diamonds.
That's the thing is there are lab diamonds that are 100% identical to what Mother Nature makes.
Right.
It's pure carbon.
Right.
And it's just made in a factory, not in the ground.
Yeah.
And De Beers, I don't know what they were thinking because De Beers tried to get into that market. So once they did that, I think that's sort of a white flag.
Yeah, because
they can't control a factory.
Right. And a lot of those diamonds were coming from China.
China, Vietnam,
and
all over the place.
Factory created diamonds. I mean, that was one thing that China is extremely good at is, they don't pay their factory workers. It could even be a dark factory,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody cares how diamonds are made. You don't need a person. You need something with extreme pressure to.
Right. Well, also diamonds have become political because certain countries in the world, they're considered blood diamonds, right?
Right.
So once the lab diamonds came on, so they're half the price.
Yeah.
Same quality, if in some cases better quality. No, they're flawless.
Right. You can make them whatever you want to make them.
And so now you have people going, well, dear, I bought
a conflict-free diamond.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I say that the money, but
right. So it's like, hey, I have a conflict-free diamond for.
And the moissanite is beautiful. The moissanite is about 10% more brilliant than a diamond.
Yeah, I saw your
great hardness. Yeah. Like a 9 out of 10. Diamond is 10. So you put that in a sterling silver setting
Yeah.
It's you can't tell that from white gold.
Yeah. Right.
And then if it's gold plated, it's got the weight and the color, and then so no one knows while you're looking at their ring if it's real or not.
Can you tell with the naked eye the difference between a moissanite and a diamond? Do you think?
It might be a little too brilliant.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
there are diamonds that are at that level, but
Yeah.
now
Those
you're
are
really talking.
right. Now you're
It's
talking about a
the
20,000,
color,
30,000
the
diamond.
brilliance, the
Yeah.
cut, everything else like
Yeah.
that. The
Yeah.
size.
Right.
That's the other thing is, when the average gal's got a 3 carat diamond, you're like,
Right. Right.
really? She gets in her Pinto and drives away.
Yeah. No, I remember when I was younger and like my parents' generation, at least the people that you know they associate with. I mean, if a woman had a 1 carat diamond, that was supposed to be like a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, nobody really ever had more than a 1 carat diamond unless they were
right.
like, you know, flaunting
Super
it. You know
rich.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It was even the super rich usually just had like a 1 carat diamond,
Yeah.
unless they had like maybe that a going out or a party diamond or something that
Right.
but their wedding ring was usually a carat, and you know everybody would talk about it if somebody had a 2 carat or a 5 carat diamond ring. You know, they'd be that was something that everybody knew about.
Well, not to mention that would be so much money, especially in those days.
Oh, right.
You would be, getting mugged,
Yeah.
losing the diamond.
Yeah.
My mom, she inherited a pair of 2 carat diamond earrings, and she lost one at Myers.
Oh no.
So I'm sure some kid thought he's got a CZ in his ear, and I said, well, I'm like, well, we got the other one. At least send it in and get it covered by insurance. So before we shipped it off, I showed it to my jeweler friend, and he and his wife were like, "Oh my god, Jesus, what?" And I'm like, "What?" They go, "Well, you just don't see a diamond that nice for earrings,
Yeah.
because earrings are back, it's
Yeah.
not like on a ring,
behind your
where
hair sometimes.
look at my diamond,
Yeah.
right?" And they appraised it at 10,000, and the insurance company was like, "Yeah, it's not a 10,000. Send it to our guy. He did 10,800." So I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine with the extra $800."
Yeah. You do a lot of estate sales. Do you is that stuff already gone? But like, is that like the Tiffany jewelry, the Louis Vuitton purses?
Well,
Is that kind of stuff like gone?
No, because not the first day, because the first day is usually market price.
Okay.
Because there might be someone who's willing to pay full price for
Okay.
something, right?
Okay.
So you tend to go the first day and go, well, if that's there tomorrow, when they 25% off or 50% off, depending on how it's run, then you might go pick it up.
Okay.
So estate sales are people who want that item for themselves.
Right.
And then there's guys like me who only want a deal, because
That
I can
makes
only
sense.
make money on a deal.
Right. Right.
And I would think with the AI and photo search, it's probably getting more and more difficult to find deals.
Yeah, I was at a estate sale recently, a neighbor's estate sale,
Oh yeah.
and they didn't discount it really until the last hour of the last day, because it was like a invite only. Remember that?
Oh
one?
right, because the
And
neighborhoods,
so yeah, so
the HOA is very snotty in this
right,
area.
right, so
It's your HOA, not mine. Find him.
so I mean, yeah, well, that's a whole nother subject.
Right.
I
I
stories
cannot
about
stand HOAs.
they.
I've lived in one, and I painted my door red,
Yeah.
and they knocked on my door and they go, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "A man can't paint his front door any color he wants." And they went, "No." And I'm like, "You know what they did? 2 years later, they painted all the doors the same color as mine, even though they made me paint it back to the turquoise blue. They're like, this looks pretty good." So they did all the trim and all the front doors. So I guess I sort of won, but
Yeah. So I have 4 daughters, right? And my daughters forced a new HOA policy, or my daughters
oh,
are their
here, did,
friends.
here?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
here.
really? Yeah.
Yeah. You want to know what it's an official HOA policy, and there's a sign. They actually put a sign up. Guess what it is?
I can't imagine.
It's a good one. It's almost unbelievable and quite offensive, I
It's
think,
not
to any
parking.
feminist. At the swimming pool, there is now an official ruling.
Oh, no floss.
No thongs.
No thongs.
No thongs. And the thing is my daughters weren't wearing thongs. They're small, petite, young women that have like small butt. And so they would buy their swimsuits at Target or whatever. It's whatever Target sells. I mean, Target, they don't have those swimsuits
thong by.
They don't. They don't have those 1960s, 70s full coverage. They don't make them. You can't buy them. You know. So, yeah. There's a sign up, and my daughters are proud of it. They'll go take selfies by the no thong sign.
Does that count for guys as well?
Oh, I sent. I was down in Miami Beach just last week or so, and there was a guy with a string banana hammock, and I sent it to my neighbors, and I'm like, this is why we're not allowing thongs. The guy was like 70 years old too, or maybe 80,
and sunburned,
sunburned, and white curly pubes hanging out from the side of the thongs, and it going up his saggy butt. It was a sight.
Speaking of sight, I want to tell you what happened to me and my Meta glasses on Saturday.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
So I went to go. I was actually going to download.
They have a new update, right?
It was a very serious update because the update said you're now AI. That you're not connected to AI, but the conversations you have with AI, we're going to send to the main hub,
right,
to help train AI,
right.
And there was no update. It starts out you can delete the. I think it's a little late.
Is it saying that it's always recording now, though? Correct.
Well, what's interesting? So I put them on. I had them on, and I was making some dinner, and on the button it said "Get to know AI." So I started talking to it. And I started talking to it about marketing our company.
Right.
And after half an hour, I realized I was sort of talking to myself. There's no one else there, and there's no real person. So I was like, am I talking to myself? And I got freaked out. I just said, I've had enough for night. But then afterwards, I was like, this is going to be amazing.
The potential.
For once everybody, because sooner or later, everybody's going to have something like that, these glasses.
Right.
Maybe it's your iPod's connected to your phone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways that this can get delivered, but the AI I'm talking to, it's in a voice that I chose from the from the ones that.
And this is all through the Meta glasses.
Yes.
So.
And the potential of what is about to happen is, I think, going to freak us all out.
Well, what I know from AI, I actually helped back in design the agents for a video editor for the AI.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about it. Yeah.
And so I know a little bit about the back end agents, and the agents are the things that deliver messages to AI and stuff. And the thing that really makes AI successful is data. And the more data it has, too much data is never a problem. Right. Not enough data is the problem. So AI needs as much data as you can possibly throw at it. Well, who can get more data to it than Google or Facebook? Or, So when you start opening up like Facebook said everything's going to the AI server now. It's going to learn lifetimes faster than we thought it could. It's gonna be incredible.
Well, it is, and I asked a question. I actually asked Elon on X. I doubt he saw it, but he's been talking about world population is going down.
Okay, well, it's
That we don't have,
for the longest time is
we
everybody
don't
said it's overpopulated. So
right, but if you just look at it mathematically, if you don't have enough babies, sooner or later the population dies off because if you're not if every family doesn't have 2.1 babies in 3 generations, you don't have enough children to have kids to replenish the population. So you have a population dive, right? Well, if everything is going robotic, what's everybody going to do?
I think it might play into. I think it might play into the natural selection process. I'm not sure. I mean, it's not a cool political correct thing to say, but I mean, we probably don't need as many humans.
Well, obviously there are certain jobs that suck,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I'm guessing the guy at the hospital who has to change the bedpans has one of the worst jobs.
How about
So that's a good robot job, right?
it's this kind of reminds me of, have you seen the movie Idiocracy?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Idiocracy.
I see that coming.
Right,
Absolutely.
you got an Idiocracy. Just watch it because it's funny because
It's our last administration.
right right, but what's funny about it too is it's like, you know, we're talking about, well, you know, world population, it might go down, but Idiocracy, it has like this like educated couple that's like, you know, contemplating, you know, should they have children? No, maybe we should wait and stuff like that. And then they have like you know, uneducated, horny teenagers that are just like, you know,
Popping out kids,
right? And by the time they decide that they're going to have kids, they're 3 generations into it on the other side,
right?
of
Too
these
late.
dumb kids, you know. And then they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're too old. You're not fertile anymore. You're not able to have kids." While this population tree, you know, just keeps
Right.
exploding. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen that way, but I
Well,
mean,
what? Okay, so let's say there are robots available in 5 years that can do absolutely anything a human can do,
okay,
and you can buy one for 10 grand. So maybe you have it clean your house, your car, cook. Maybe your mother-in-law has trouble taking care of herself, so you can have it do that.
and it can be gentle too. I mean, the Tesla robot, it can cook an over easy egg now.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, that's pretty gentle. So, I mean, just saying, if you needed elderly care to wipe butts,
Right. Yeah.
you know, it can gently do that. And in fact, you know, that's one area. I have daughters, two of them currently have part time jobs at a nursing home, a reputable, very reputable nursing home. Another one has worked for a non reputable nursing home and thought it was so horrible that she quit. But that area, I think that robots could probably do a much, and I'm not saying a little bit much, I'm saying a robot that was programmed to be caring could do such a better job than the people.
Yeah, because some of those people who do that job don't want the job.
Right. And they
So
can't get a lot of other jobs.
They're doing it for the money, period. And that's probably the worst person to take care of your mom.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
And and a robot can be programmed to be compassionate and gentle. And here's another cool thing. Let's say your mom is 500 miles away. You could teleport into the robot And hey, mom,
Hey, right?
you
Exactly.
know,
Have the screen. How's it
right?
going?
Yeah, and communicate and do those things. Go out to dinner even.
Yeah.
You know,
And I really think that people need to quit being afraid of it and embrace it. And I really think that schools need to start really soon, like next curriculum, they need to start embracing Chat GPT. They need to start embracing Meta AI, and they
well,
need to start learning to work with it than to try and be different than it.
but don't you think that that technology is a self-fulfilling prophecy? It's going to take out schools.
But
It's going to take out.
the problem is the
Why would you
schools
go? Why
now.
would you go to 4 years of university if John can put on some eyeglasses and?
Well, that's what I mean. I'm talking about that we have to teach young humans to work with AI.
Oh, definitely.
Otherwise, if you're trying to teach them
For the
that
first,
AI is off limits to their thinking, that's not the
yeah,
right
no, I
way.
thought about getting these for both my daughters,
Yeah, yeah,
just to give them the heads up on it. The get because in 2 years, the
yeah.
difference between the people who do and don't will be
Oh, yeah.
massive.
Right. Exactly. It
Massive.
will be. It'll be incredible. And already, I know people that are at a mid level management that will soon be overtaking their superiors because they know how to use AI and they've been using AI, and they're like, the boss sent out this. What is the best response? And AI already knows what the best response is and how to manipulate yourself to get to a different position so you get recognized by his boss. And now, just by able to embrace AI,
You're making the boss look like an
people,
idiot.
well, they're like, this sounds like the AI will say, this sounds like busy work. Why don't you have your boss follow up with this response? And now the boss is like, this is so busy, but now the boss's boss is saying, look at the production we're getting out of these people. Maybe that should be our next boss,
Yeah.
right? Somebody that knows how to use their
Yeah, because
and work with.
AI is going to get around the butt kissing and
Yeah.
personalities, and it's going to look at what's the best outcome.
And it can do it. It's so fast for one. And it has stuff where it can personalize it to your personality. Like, it's like, would you like this sassier? Would you like this more respectful? Would you like this to be more manipulative so it reaches and causes this reaction?
I don't understand the six fingers though.
It's got to work on the images, right? Tell them about that. That's funny.
And it's
That's
not
super
just
funny.
okay. So it's my daughter's graduation party coming up, and he took some photos, and I thought, oh, how cool would it be to put a graduation hat on her?
And fireworks and stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
It was
AI did that, and I didn't notice, but it also decided to put on an extra fingers. He had six fingers. I didn't see it, right?
she saw it.
She saw, yeah.
It.
Yeah, I got ringed a new one for that.
But,
And but that's not the first time.
no, it
AI
has,
wants all humans to have six fingers for some reason.
it doesn't understand some aspects of it. I am excited about AI in healthcare.
Oh yeah,
You know,
some of the answers I think we're gonna get to.
University of Toledo. I have one daughter that's a med student there, but they have a simulation lab, which is state of the art, where they can actually go in and you're sitting in a big auditorium, like a lecture bowl, right? And the simulation is around you, and one of the student volunteers or what professors can go in and do the simulation, and everybody in the auditorium can see multiple angles. They can go. They can experience it from the scalpel view. They can experience it from the vascular view. they can experience it from the surgeon's eye point of view. But they, when you partner that with artificial intelligence, and now you have this
And
simulation,
quantum computing.
you have this simulation that already exists. And now what happens when you empower the young surgeon to say, you know, what would be a better cut, here or here? Let's say you're doing facial reconstruction after a dog bite. All right. Let's say the surgeon's wearing meta glasses.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, look at these nerves, look at this ultrasound. This nerve is going here, this nerve is going here. These were damaged from the dog bite. We want to get this face back to normal functioning. How soon is it going to be where meta, or whatever we decide to call it, that technology is like, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. And then what's the next step? How long is it going to be before the robot learns and the robot does it?
Well, they already have robotic brain surgery.
Well, and they've had robotic assisted for many years. I mean, the Da Vinci. Are you familiar with the Da Vinci?
No, I've heard of it. I don't know that much about it.
I've had surgery on myself from the Da Vinci robot. It was originally designed as a robotic heart surgeon, and can do it. That's why it exists. I mean, it's $1 million machine that does it better than any human can, and less invasive. Now you and they did mine. They did this big hernia repair, a post-surgical hernia repair. I had a 13-inch hernia. They were able to go in arthroscopically with the Da Vinci robot and completely put this roll. They unrolled the mesh inside me, like, sewed it up. It was a 12-hour surgery at the time, and that was 5 years ago. I talked to the surgeon. He said he's got it down to 8 hours, and he said that's probably the best he'll ever get is 8 hours. But I mean, that's a long day. I mean, can you imagine sitting there
that's
8
probably,
hours?
Is that more than one doctor? Do they do shifts at that point?
They almost have to, but
I would think it'd be hard to
just
concentrate,
focus, and I mean, just
your body would just be cramped up,
right?
From
But that again, that's where the robot comes in.
Right.
12 hours on a robot. What does it care? And if it learns from all the data that it's done, let's say the doctor's done 100, let's say the Da Vinci system has performed 100,000 heart surgeries, and that data has been collected. How soon is it where you just have to give it, a doctor just has to sit there and like approve, and the Da Vinci robot goes in there and it shows what its next step is going to be: approve, no, manual.
Yeah.
It's I think we're so close to being there.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. What it's like in 5 years, I don't think anybody has this. I don't think anybody's imagination is that good.
We're in a new generation.
There's bound to be other things that come of it as well. Think about 20 years ago. There was nothing like Facebook.
Right.
20 years ago, no one had a smartphone.
Right.
Is it 20 years ago? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I remember. Well, it was probably longer than that. We're probably talking 30 years ago when the first cell phone came out.
And more than that.
Yeah, but
I actually worked for one of the very first cell companies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was called AutoCall. It was out of Fremont, California, and the guy who started it was the vice president from AT&T.
Oh, wow.
And AT&T helped develop the cellular technology with Motorola.
Oh, yeah, I remember the Motorola.
He was the first guy to open up a shop. And we sold mostly car phones.
Yeah, the
'Cause there
bag
were
phones or the big car phones.
installed car
Yeah.
phones.
Yeah, those were big money.
AudioVox was the cheapest, so that was what we sold the most of.
Yeah.
$1,300 then.
Yeah.
So
Plus
that's like
$1 a minute, probably.
oh yeah, there was 2 credit checks, one for the phone and one for the phone bill.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember the early cell phones where you got like 75 minutes a month, right? And it was like
Well, they had on peak and off peak,
right.
so it went down like from 45 cents a minute at 7 o'clock to like 25 cents a minute, but you still had like $75 just to have the phone on,
Right. Right.
and then there were roaming fees.
Yeah, I remember.
So you could be driving along, and all of a sudden it's like $4 a minute.
Yeah.
But you don't know it until 2 months later it comes on your bill, and there's nothing you can do about it. One guy had one cell in Winnemucca, Nevada, and you have to drive through it, and he could charge just about whatever he wanted
Right.
to,
Right.
because there was no reciprocity, there were no
Right.
agreements,
Right. Right.
and in those days anybody could win a lottery to put a cell in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said all over the country because there were no cells. How do you get people to build them?
Yeah, I
You
guess.
say, oh, you can have this section. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Before they knew that it was causing brain cancer.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw the most ridiculous thing in Miami Beach the other day. I was driving over the causeway. It was right before the causeway that goes from mainland to Miami Beach, and there's this little downtown area called Wynwood. But right by Wynwood, have you seen the cell phone towers that look like pine trees?
Yeah, palm trees. Yeah.
No, pine.
Oh,
pine
no,
trees.
not
Pine
the
trees.
pine. In
So
Florida?
they have no. So they have them in Michigan. Here.
Okay, yeah.
And it makes sense, right? But
They have some around here, actually.
yeah. So it looks like a pine tree,
Yeah.
but it's really a cell tower, right?
Right.
They had right by the bridge. They had this huge, like Rockford Plaza, pine tree, and I'm like, that's the dumbest looking thing I've ever seen in Florida. It's like this pine tree, and it just stuck out, and it was like so obvious. It was like, who made that decision?
Yeah, the palm trees are pretty common in Las Vegas.
Okay, palm tree. They should have spent the extra money for the palm tree one.
Which works because they sort of look like a palm tree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, so well, what do we got?
What do we got?
We got the Epstein conspiracy.
They've gotten. I was surprised because I really thought finally we're gonna get to know, and Bonnie's saying she's gonna release, and Cash Patel and Trump. I think they can't. I think it's too powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
You're,
I agree. I think, and I don't know, whatever happened was horrible, but I bet if the American public knew how horrible it was and how deep it ran, they would lose all faith in the government. I think.
I think you're right on a bunch of levels. They talked about checking out the gold in Fort Knox, right?
Yeah.
They stopped talking about that shit, right? Why?
I
don't think there's much gold in there. In fact, there's a story, and this was like 15 or 20 years ago. We hold a fair amount of gold for other countries. Don't know why. I don't know what the agreement is there, but some of it was repatriated back to India. It was bars of tungsten.
Oh, shit.
The kind of moment it was because tungsten weighs about the same as gold.
Wow.
So they made tungsten bars coated in gold.
Wow. I have a great gold transportation story. So, I was flying for the airlines, and we were in Mexico City, and Mexico can be pretty corrupt. Has the
Yeah.
reputation of being pretty corrupt, right? So the Mexican police are really corrupt, as far as I know.
I
As far as
paid
what
him
I've
off
heard.
twice.
You're right.
Just
right,
driving,
right,
actually.
Right.
So we can keep driving. We had to pay him.
Then you got the federales, which are supposed to be less corrupt. But what I've heard is the Mexican Navy are like SEAL elite, loyal, not corrupt, hardcore. So we pull in to the gate in Mexico City, and the Mexican Navy is there, and they got Ford F-150s with heavy machine guns. They have soldiers every 5 feet, and
Something important.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, where we parked, the actual presidential hangar is close by, and so I asked the Mexican gate agent, and I'm like, "Oh, is the president about to move?" And he goes, "No, that is for you, sir." He goes, "You are taking gold today," and they brought out and they loaded in a passenger airplane headed from Mexico City to Atlanta, Georgia. They loaded 4,600 pounds of gold,
Oh, wow.
onto the aircraft.
16.
So at the time, it was
That's
probably closer.
52,000 ounces.
Yeah. Times.
Dan, that may be $1,000.
No, it was closer. It was probably about 1,300 an ounce at that time.
Now it's over 3.
Right.
So,
But what was crazy about that? They
had to let you know because it's fuel, right?
Yeah. But
That's a lot of weight.
they also had them. I don't know how many ounces or pounds, but it came out in pallets, and it was big orange containers with their own individual transponder antennas. So if we went down, they'd be able to find the gold. And like the other pilot and I were talking, we're like, I don't know if this is a good bad trip. I mean, it's like, how many other people know? I think maybe for the safest thing, that's probably why they put it on a passenger airplane, right? Because it's like, and it was
maybe random.
Right.
No one knew.
Was random,
no
right?
one knew.
But the Mexican Navy, when we pushed back, they followed us out with that F-150 with the anti-aircraft gun on it, and soldiers with pickups and lining the taxiways, and they were there until we took off.
In Las Vegas, I used to live in Las Vegas, and every year they have a jewelry show, and they came out of the Venetian, and it was a big semi with a bunch of cop cars. I mean, it was more than you see for the president.
Yeah.
And it was going to the airport, and
it
was whatever was on that. You knew whatever was on that semi was worth a lot of money because of the way they didn't ask you to get to the side of the road. They made you go to the side of the road.
Right. Well, that's a good episode, right? What are we at? We're at 50 minutes. I'm just going to peek real quick. I can talk for another 12 minutes.
Another 12 minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
What is it? 48 minutes?
Yeah, 48 minutes right now. So, so our live, this is only our second live show.
Second live, yeah.
And we should be on Rumble and YouTube. So if, just throw us a nice little comment there.
Yeah, if anybody's watching, tell us.
Yeah. What do you want? What do you want to hear next week? Because, I got another Federal Reserve transfer story if you want.
Yeah, have at it.
So we were in Fort Lauderdale, which apparently is a Federal Reserve. It must be. So we were in Fort Lauderdale, and our flight was Fort Lauderdale to Detroit, direct flight. And got to Fort Lauderdale again, all these police cars, armored cars. and the armored car pulls up. You know, we have to sign some stuff as pilots. You know, and they start loading all this bags of money. Each bag of money was a clear bag, shrink wrapped and about the size of a duffel bag, right? 80,000 each bag was $80,000 cash, real cash. Loading it on again to the front of the airplane, just loading it on, and so again they follow us out to the runway. You know, watch us till we take off. There's cop cars on every side of the runway. We were told it was a Federal Reserve transfer. So transferring real cash from the Fort Lauderdale Federal Reserve to apparently the Detroit Federal Reserve. So we land in Detroit, and it's a little bit snowy and stuff like that. And nobody. And the baggage handlers open up the belly of the airplane.
Really?
Pull up their belt loader. and these bags of money start going down this belt loader and just like falling off onto the ground. And it was like piles of money just falling off. And I'm
these guys have no clue what's going on.
Right. They're like, holy shit, there's a lot of money, you know. But
and so where were the Federal Reserve guys?
But what's funny is like, turn to the other pilot and I'm like, maybe one of us should like go down there and like, you know, say something, supervise. I don't know. This isn't really our job, you know. It's just, you know, and all of a sudden we see this fat guy. That's just he's like, no. It's like this is his job is to protect this money, he's a little late, and he's like running, and some car is detained following him, but he's like probably 300 pounds. His tie's all loose. He's like sweating, and he's like been running. He probably died after that of a heart attack. But he's like, no, stop. And probably like 15 minutes later, with like these, you know, millions and millions of dollars just laying in the snow, finally the armored car comes by, and they start loading it in there.
But, you know, generally it's hard to get into the back of the airport, you know. And I remember when I was in boarding school, we had a shorter bus, a short bus, but a shorter bus.
You rode the short bus,
and it was I think like winter break.
Yeah, and
one of the stops that the bus would do is at the airport. Well, our driver is this older Australian guy. And we're like in there, and I'm waiting to get dropped off somewhere else, but we had to hit San Francisco airport. I don't know how this guy did it. He's driving the school bus, and he pulls up to the guard gate in the back of the airport. And we're driving where the planes are. I have no idea how this happened, right? We're all like, I don't think we're supposed to be here. Right. He turns around, and we drive off at the regular drop off for passengers. To this day, I have no idea what they were thinking when they let a school bus in. That was before major terrorism.
Right. Yeah. Life was easier before major terrorism.
Oh yeah, going through the airport was such a breeze.
Right. The metal detector only, really. No,
but they didn't take They didn't take your pocket knife.
No, exactly.
I one time was late for a flight, and I had a buck knife.
Yeah.
In my duffel bag.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we can send it through baggage."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm 2 minutes away from losing my flight.
Yeah.
Keep it,
Right.
But now I think they'd tase you first, handcuff you, throw you in solitary confinement.
I don't know. It's yeah. I mean, the thing is if you were going to be a terrorist, you're probably not going to bring a buck knife through. You're probably going to go through the back doors with a corrupt employee or a paid-off employee.
It's pretty amazing that we haven't had many incidences.
Well, and not to put it out there, but I mean, you don't have to blow up an airplane. I mean, what if you blow up the front of the airport? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, that's just as bad and more innocent people than blowing up one airplane.
Well, it's also terrorism is always about the psychology.
And the soft targets, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? I mean, schools.
that
Like,
psychology, right?
look at what they do over in Israel and stuff. I mean, they attack schools. It's like, you know, those that's hospitals. It's like stuff. It's like that's terrorism. That's
Well, October, whatever the date was, my apologies, Israel last year, and the response, I'm sure Hamas is like, maybe we should have done that after all.
yeah, yeah.
Because it pretty much wiped out Hamas.
Hopefully,
Well,
hopefully. I
there's
mean,
not much left of them.
they're yeah. I mean, I don't care what your religious affiliation is. Is that humanity has a just being human. You don't do that to people.
Well, you make a good point, but what if AI takes the time to learn about how horrible humans have been to each other over time? It
There's
might go,
there's a really good AI documentary. I think Anderson Cooper does it, and so I Google that one too. Anderson Cooper AI. It's an hour long documentary, and it starts out pretty amazing, where Anderson Cooper actually is talking for about 2 minutes, and then they switch to Anderson Cooper, and he says, "That wasn't me. That was an entire that every single thing, the movements, the thing." And you go back and look, and it's like, I don't see it. I mean,
yeah.
they had the movements.
Well, the other
down.
thing is, if you're not looking for it and you're not totally paying attention, like
Yeah,
once in a while I look at a photo and go, is that AI?
yeah, right.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine, close friend of mine. So there's a gal on Facebook, and she's using a AI made photo, but she's pretending it's her own.
Is that your Bumble date?
No, no, I haven't had. They usually look like they see
Yeah.
but they're just larger in volume than I was expecting. No, but this girl flat out uses an AI generated photo, and she has her real photos on her Facebook account. So that's a weird thing.
You could look,
And I admit that the only reason I probably friended her was I was friending the AI photo, not her regular one. But people compliment her, and she goes, "Thank you."
Oh,
So that's sort of like your avatar, right?
right.
So now you're living through your avatar.
Yeah.
And if you never go out on a date, I guess that'll work.
Yeah.
But you don't look like her when you show up.
Yeah. Well, I want to go real back quick to that Anderson Cooper thing.
Okay.
So on that, because it ties into something you just said like a few minutes ago. So on that AI documentary, there was a professor, philosopher, and they're like, Earth has all these problems, and we could come to a point where AI decides the problem is humans. And
Right.
if you give AI a blind blanket, fix this problem, it's like the best thing to do is get rid of all the humans.
Well, what if AI is running your power grid and all your airlines?
Yeah.
And then it goes, you know, they kill each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like in last century, socialist governments murdered. You know how many of their own people? 100 million people.
100 million. I would have.
You think Mao Zedong, Soviet
Oh, wow.
Union,
Of their
Hitler.
own people.
Right.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Mao Zedong, it was the Chinese people he killed.
Wow.
In Russia, it was the Russians that were murdered.
Wow. Right?
The Nazis, they killed their own people. Well, of course, they killed a lot of other people, but
Yeah.
the first people they killed off were their own.
Wow. So we hit our hour, but I wanna say something for next week. I got some. It's new intel. It's a new serious problem that we're going to talk about next week, and aircraft are being jammed. Their position is being jammed from ground-based uh, militaries around the world, and it's being jammed, and their position is being relocated in flight with no malware. It's being like they're being targeted, and it gets really dangerous when you get over by the Swiss Alps and stuff like that. I mean, if you're
Who's doing this?
They think it's the Russians.
So they don't know who is actually doing it.
They're not sure, but it's a big problem over in parts of Europe and near Israel and stuff like that. So, but it's because of the scale. They feel the only possible explanation of who's doing it has to be military. And then now you're talking about whose military is capable and, wanting to do something like that. Now you're looking at, you know, people that hate Israel.
Well, or they're so stupid that because when let's say the United States government figures out who's doing it, they're probably gonna stop it.
Well, the jamming is one thing, right? So jamming is where you just jam the location and stuff like that, and then the airplane basically sends up some messages that says
But you say they're
unreliable.
cloning it, right?
But they're actually like false positioning it. They're like showing it off position, like so. And I talked to a pilot recently about this, and he said they were flying along, and all of a sudden they were 30 miles off course instantly, and
And you don't know which.
right. It's
Does
like
he know which? I mean, I don't know.
Now they have areas, and they actually have to. There's procedures where like 400 miles out, you have to start shutting off some navigation that previous. I mean, that technology is what allowed you to navigate certain ways.
Yeah.
And now you have to go back 50 years in technology because you have to shut everything off because you're 400 miles away from a danger zone. But we'll talk about that next week. So tune in.
China.
Well, China.
No, we'll talk about China next week.
Okay, we can talk about China.
I think what's going to hit the fan in China between now and.
All right.
It's hitting the fan anyway.
Right.
I think it might just.
Yeah, Trump in China has been a little bit quiet, but.
Well,
but I think
there's a lot of information finally coming out of China, and China's good at not letting the information come out. But they're having protests and factories closed and unemployment plummeting, and the Chinese people are pissed off of the CCP, which in long term I think is good for humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see.
Tear down that wall.
Gong hei fat choi.
There you go.
Have a Chinese New Year.
All right.
Good night.
Good night. See you next week on Dog's Red Wine.
Yeah. I think that Chinese New Year's in like February.
Yeah, it's already passed. So. Oh. Yeah. All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Actually, I went and ate at QQ. Have you ever had food from QQ? In Toledo, it's over by Kirin, which is the Chinese